The opinions expressed in this program reflect only those of the participants and are not necessarily those of the sponsors, management, or staff of WTBQ Radio or FST Broadcasting Corporation.
WTBQ.
You gotta go to FlixPop Radio. FlixPop Radio.
Yes. Here we go. Welcome everybody to FlixPop Radio, your source for the best movie talk here at WGHT and WTBQ every Saturday morning from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Behind the glass, FlixPop Radio producer Ryan Goose Gosker. How are you today, Goose? I'm your host, Paul Bastante, and there's literally nowhere else in the entire world, that I would rather be than right here, right now, in lovely Warwick, New York. Number to call here, 845-651-1110. If you can't call us, text us at 845-328-0886. You can also catch us across the country by visiting WTBQ.com and streaming us from there. Coming up right after FlixPop Radio is the Tom Lovelace Music Experience at 10 a.m. every single Saturday. So with us today in the studio, special guest author and musician Rob Errera. We have him today. Also, the officially reviewed segment with Allison Lucan, the reality wrap-up, the People's Podcast with Santiago, and the featured genre of the day is the horror genre. What's your favorite horror movie? Text it to 845-328-0886. I'll read your text on the air this morning. We'll also play Dinner and a Movie, where you get to play the Movie Line Trivia game for a chance to win dinner and a movie. Booyah! Date night, courtesy of FlixPop Radio. Sponsors for the show, Officially Social Estate Attorney Rebecca Eckert, Spaziani's Catering, Food Design, Cardinal Tours, Monica's Italian Restaurant, the Silk City Podcast, Cardinal Frames, and The Reset with Stephanie Shore Podcast. So, folks, I have a confession to make. What you're hearing right now is actually the maiden voyage, really, of FlixPop Radio. And somebody said that to me. They said, hey, you're on the radio. This is great. But, it's your maiden voyage. I leaned back. I said to myself, hey, it really is. It's my maiden voyage. But then on the way to work today, I started thinking about some maiden voyages and realized that really the only maiden voyages that we ever really remember are the ones that ended in complete disaster, right? And like the Titanic, right? That was a maiden voyage, right? Jack Dawson gets his ticket. He wins it in a card game. He ends up on the ship, and as fate would have it, it sinks to the bottom of the ocean after hitting an iceberg. So, hey, that didn't end so good. There's the Poseidon Adventure. Yeah. Shelley Long ended up in the bottom, basically, of the ocean in that one, right? That's a maiden voyage.
Shelley Winters, yeah.
Shelley Winters.
I feel so bad for her.
Me too. But, so what we're hoping for here today, Rob, is we're hoping that FlixPop Radio doesn't end up in the frigid, icy waters of public radio.
Is this maiden voyage seaworthy, Paul? That's what I want to know.
Me too.
I think it's going to be okay. I don't think we're going to be like the SS Minnow, which was another ship that went out for a 3-hour tour, and then the weather started getting rough. What else happened there?
My guest, of course, makes the reference to Gilligan's Island. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. The first guest, really, in the history of FlixPop Radio. He's the author of Autism Dad. It's a series of books about his experiences as the dad of an autistic son. His latest book, Becker Comes Alive, a rock and roll pioneer's touching true tale of music, murder, and monsters, is about Del Air's drummer and rock pioneer John Becker. He is Rob Errera, E-R-R-E-R-A. Welcome to FlixPop Radio, my friend.
Thank you so much, Paul. It's a pleasure to be here. I have known you for many years, and I'm honored to be on the maiden voyage of FlixPop.
The maiden voyage. Hopefully, like I said, we don't end up at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean here.
I am wearing a life vest,
Excellent.
Just in case.
All right, so put your trays in the upright position. Prepare for impact. What we're going to do right now is we're going to play yes, no, either or, because what I'd like to do, Rob, is get our listeners to get a knowledge of you before we start, and I feel like in this segment we'll be able to do that. So yes or no, either or brings us the opportunity to learn a little bit more about our guest. And today, we'll be playing the horror version of the game.
I love the horror genre.
I know
it's been a childhood passion that I've never outgrown.
And that's why you're here. I will ask our guest, a series of rapid-fire questions that require either a yes, a no response, or an either-or response. Goose, just tell me through the grass. Rangers or Devils? Devils, okay. Golf, yes or no? Tiddlywinks or Monopoly? Monopoly. Okay, so you guys get it at home, right? Everybody gets it? Okay. Everybody at home, play along, please, from home. Yes, no, either or is always brought to you by Cardinal Frame and Art, Pompton Lakes. If you need it framed, it's Cardinal Frames. And like I said before, today is horror movies. Are you ready to play, Rob?
I am.
Everyone else, please play along at home. Friday the 13th or Evil Dead?
Evil Dead.
All right, excellent. Nightmare on Elm Street or Misery?
Misery.
All right. Now, this one, listen, they're meant to be a little bit different, okay? And I want the listeners to kind of get to know you by your answers here. The Blair Witch Project or Hellraiser?
Okay. I'm going to have to go Blair Witch Project.
Why?
I think it's a more impactful movie in the genre. They kind of revitalized the found footage subgenre of horror films.
Okay.
And as much as I love Hellraiser, one of my first journalism assignments that I remember fondly was getting to interview Clive Barker, the writer of Hellraiser. And he was a very interesting, proper British gentleman, and he was very polite. And I was obsessed with his books. I still am. He's a great author. But for a visual movie, I think The Blair Witch. Believe it or not, even though it really annoyed people, and it still kind of annoys me when I watch it. It makes you kind of dizzy with the swinging camera, but
it looks like it was filmed by a 10-year-old or whatever.
It does, but that's the impact of it, right?
That's right. And they did a lot with the little. Saw, yes or no?
No.
Psycho, the Alfred Hitchcock version, yes or no?
Oh, yes.
All right. The Conjuring, yes or no?
I'm going to say yes on that.
Okay.
There are some disputes about whether the Warrens, the paranormal investigators, were legitimate or were maybe putting on a little bit of a show for people. Either way, the movie The Conjuring was pretty effective.
Okay. Now this one I find really interesting because the first one part of it is the one that really kind of disturbed me for days afterwards. The Hills Have Eyes or the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
I'm going Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Okay, good.
And I'll tell you why. I like the director Tobe Hooper, who did Texas Chainsaw Massacre, much more of was really making a statement about, I think, the meat manufacturing industry and the slaughterhouses and kind of what it would be like for a person to be in that kind of situation. And The Hills Have Eyes, while I'll say it's Wes Craven's, I think it's probably his best movie, but in general, I'm not a Wes Craven fan. I don't really, he doesn't resonate with me, his films. But
Night of the Living Dead or The Shining?
All right, this is a blasphemous question, in my opinion. Both are classics in the genre. Gosh. I'll say this. I think I went to go see The Shining in the movie theater when I was 12. And I went with my sister and her boyfriend at the time. I think I was supposed to be a chaperone or something, but I really was just kind of transfixed by this movie. I don't think I fully understood it. I know there was blood coming out of elevators, but I think it stuck with me as a 12-year-old. So, yeah, I'm going to... but do I put it over Night of the Living Dead, Paul?
Yes or no? Shining or Living Dead?
I'm going Night of the Living Dead.
All right, Jaws or The Bride of Frankenstein?
Oh, come on now. I got to go Jaws. Jaws was another childhood memory that sticks with me. And
last one, Phantasm or The Sixth Sense?
Oh, I love Phantasm. I'm going to go Phantasm.
Excellent. Great movie, right?
Even though, you got to love all those. You got to love Sixth Sense as well, but...
All right, that's yes, no, or either or. Thanks for playing that. I hope that our listeners have a better idea about you. On the other side of the break, we're going to hear from Allison Lucan in our officially reviewed segment. More stuff from our very special guest, Rob Errera. You're going to get a chance to win dinner and a movie playing the Movie Line contest. It's all coming up after this.
As a #1 public speaker, Paul Bastante combines entertainment and information in his presentations for all his speaking engagements. Topics may range from quirky Americans to the history of the Oreo cookie, as well as business topics such as Marketing 101 and artificial intelligence. Paul's upbeat personality plus motivational and inspirational speaking engagements are customized. Whether for a business conference or a senior living facility, you can book Paul by visiting paulbastante.com.
Hi, this is Tom Fursey. Sing along and relive the memories of the 1980s on the Magic of the 80s. Saturday night starting at 6 on WTBQ, playing the best music.
Magic of the 80s. WTBQ.
Welcome back to FlixPop Radio. We're still here with author, writer, musician Rob Errera, who's been nice enough to spend a few minutes with us today. I appreciate you, Rob.
Thank you, Paul.
Before I get back into our conversation with you, though, I have a question for you. Are your life documents in order?
When you say life documents, I would have to say fairly in order, but they could always be better.
All right. Well, everybody, if the worst were to happen, would your family struggle to put the pieces together, or would they have peace of mind because you called estate attorney Rebecca Eckert? Rebecca charges a flat rate for wills, advance directives, powers of attorney, revocable trusts, and more. Not only that, though, she's the absolute best. And your initial consultation is always free. Visit her today at rleckert.com, rleckert.com. It's time for the officially reviewed segment of the FlixPop Radio program. The officially reviewed segment is delivered by Allison Lukin of Officially Social. She's a writer and reviewer, and we'll get her take and recommendation on a book for every week on FlixPop Radio. Allison, how are you today?
I'm great, Paul. How are you? And congratulations on your first broadcast.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thanks for being a part of it. What you got for us today?
Well, Officially Reviewed is brought to you today by estate attorney Rebecca Eckert. And my review this week is of the horror novel We Used to Live Here by Canadian author Marcus Cleaver. And this book was released in June 2024 and topped a lot of best of 2024 lists for book reviewers that I follow on Instagram. So imagine a suspicious family rings your doorbell asking for a tour of your house because they used to live there. You're too nice, so you let them in, but they never leave. Let me tell you, it takes a lot to rattle me, but there is a scene in the attic towards the end of this story that has stayed with me. In fact, it's such a good story that Netflix purchased the rights to make a movie coming soon. Take me up on this one. If you like horror, you will not be disappointed. This is Allison Lukin for FlixPop Radio.
Allison, thank you so much. We'll see you next week. Folks, go out, get that, read it, see it, get it in your hands. She is actually the best authority. Okay, Rob. Back to you.
That sounds good. We used to live here?
We used to live here. That's the name of the book.
I'm going to pick that up.
Absolutely. So, Rob, thanks so much for being on the show today. I appreciate it. Every guest who appears on FlixPop Radio receives dinner for two at Monica's Italian Restaurant, 1 Lakeside Avenue, Pompton Lakes, New Jersey. I didn't know if you knew that or not, but you and a guest.
I love it.
For dinner, Monica's Italian Restaurant. You can visit Monica's today at monicasrestaurant.net. Now, let's talk about...
Wait. I got to say,
go ahead.
We had my daughter's 18th birthday party at Monica's Restaurant.
Well, you're going back.
And it was awesome. And I can't wait to go back.
You're going back and say hi to Attila while you're there. Okay,
that's good.
Let's talk about your books. This guy, I've known Rob for many, many years. We may have even been roommates at some point back in our days when, and let's be honest, I don't remember a lot about those days, Rob, but...
Back in the day.
Paul,
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
When people say back in the day,
yes,
what is the day? The day is a period of about 15 years, and it differs for each person. It's probably between your 20s and 35, or maybe, I don't know, 15 and 30. Anyway, the day.
Well, tell me about your writing career, and specifically what I want to know is folks. Rob has a series of books called Autism Dad. They're about his experience as a dad of an autistic child. Tell us about the books and tell us where they can get them, and tell us the whole deal.
Sure. So Autism Dad is you can go to autismdad.net if you want to learn some more. I am a newspaper journalist, and I wrote columns for many years. And my columns would often be about personal things, family matters. Sometimes they were about local politics. But after we had our son, at about a year old, or 18 months, he was diagnosed with autism. And so I started writing about that a little bit in my columns. And that kind of then, over the course of a year or so, those columns kind of became the skeleton for the book, Autism Dad I. And let me tell you about Autism Dad as a series, Paul.
Do it.
I always wanted to write scary books. And you got to be careful what you wish for, because autism, when it comes into your life, can be very scary and can be a real-life tale of terror. And I think some of that is captured in the first book, Autism Dad I. It's basically it's my wife and I's search to try to rescue our son. We kind of felt that, in my son's case, I would say he has like a regressive form of autism, where for the first year of his life, he developed fine. Pointing, mama, dada, all the things you expect, all the milestones. And then after a year, he started losing those. Stopped pointing, stopped kind of looking at you when you're talking to him. And it's almost like your toddler has been kidnapped and replaced by a disinterested stranger. They're kind of your kid no longer really looks to you for guidance. And your whole life, our whole life after that, became trying to get this kid to come back to us. And that's what I've been doing for the last 22 years, is trying to get my kid to come back and live in the world with me. And well, I'll let you interrupt.
Did it help you to write this down? I mean, and before you answer that, the people at home, really what I wanted to talk to you about, because when this happens and they learn of this in their life, obviously this is a life-changing deal that you hear. Yes. And some of the first things that some of these parents go through when they learn this is that it's a devastating thing. How are they going to cope with it? How are they going to deal with it? Was writing this down and publishing this work, was it therapeutic for you?
It was, but I'll say this. It was probably about a year and a half before I could even write the words, my son has autism. I kind of kept it, and I think that's probably when you first get this diagnosis, there's a bit of shame. There's a bit of fear, like you don't know what's going to happen. You kind of maybe don't want to tell everybody. Although what we did is we wound up telling everybody, and then because that's how you get services for your kid. You know, you really got to. You can't be an insular. I make an unfunny joke in Autism Dad I, where I say autism is kind of contagious. Obviously, it's not, but when your kid is diagnosed with autism, you kind of become, as a family, insulated, and you kind of cut yourself off from friends and the rest of the world, because you come, at least for my wife and I, we became so focused on trying to help our son that everything else kind of fell away. Friendships, relationships, hobbies, all that kind of disappeared for many years, actually. And it took a while to kind of get ourselves back after this, once we were on this journey for a little while.
Listen, man, that's devastating and to hear. And, listen, it's just what you've done with it really is remarkable. Your way of coping with it's remarkable.
Again, I think the Autism Dad I is more about my wife and I trying to cure our son. And we spent all our time and all our money and all money that we didn't have to try different therapies. And here's the thing about the different therapies for autism. What works for one kid might not work for another. And you have to really, I hate to say try them all, but try as many as you can, because, like I said, we've seen kids really react positive to certain therapies. Like one of my son's doctors was big on methylcobalamin shots, which is a vitamin B12 shot.
God bless you.
Yeah. There you go. Thank you. Methylcobalamin.
Yeah.
Anyway, so, and these methylcobalamin shots didn't really help my son, but there was another kid, a friend of his, that totally started speaking and really progressing far on these shots. So, you got to try everything as a parent.
So if you are in that situation and you want to read this book, I recommend you do. There's 3 of them. If you go to FlixPopRadio.com, all the books are listed there. The links are there. Go ahead and click.
Nice.
You can purchase those books right now. Do it. Rob's a struggling artist like I am, like we all are out here. A great way to show your support is to buy the book. So buy Autism Dad. Now,
thank you. There's also there's not a lot of. Well, I don't know if there wasn't when I wrote the book, but there wasn't a lot of fatherhood perspectives on autism.
Well, they don't really care about us, Rob, to be honest, right? I mean, it's about the mom, about the mother.
It is all about the mom.
Right, and we're just kind of like on the sidelines. But no, but you're absolutely right. There is a role for the dads to play, and the ones that play it great really have a better outcome, for their family. So, okay, that's not the only book you've ever written in your life.
I've written a couple.
You have, tell us about your book, Becker Comes Alive. It's about Del Air's drummer, and they basically, their success was wrecked.
Yes.
By Beatlemania. Tell us about this book.
Okay, well, John Becker was my neighbor when I moved into my home 20 years ago. He came into my life. He was probably about in his late 60s at the time, and it took me a while to kind of warm up to this guy. But one day he says to me, "Hey, Bob," he'd always call me Bob. "Hey, Bob, I'm in the worst movie of all time on the internets." I'm like, "John, what are you talking about?" He goes, "I'm in this movie that they say is terrible." And I look, and it was a movie called The Horror of Party Beach, and it was released in '64, and it was terrible. It was a bad.
Oh, it's terrible.
It's bad. It's kind of I think they were trying to do a parody of like the beach blanket bingo movies, like the Frankie and Annette movies that were shot in California. They shot this one in Connecticut in black and white, so it lacks none of it. Is not summery looking at all, and the monster's very cheesy looking. It's a paper mache kind of monster mask. But John's band, the Del Airs, was featured in the film. They were the beach band, and they played their groovy tunes. And the Zombie Stomp is the big number from that movie. So John was an interesting character. His day, remember we were talking about the day?
Yeah.
His day was probably 1960 to 75, And he was right on the cusp of some great things, my friend John. The Del Airs could have made it. They had a great surf sound, but John blames the Beatles on ruining everything, because when '64, when Beatlemania came around, all the surf bands kind of lost their gigs, and my friend John, that was maybe his first big heartbreak in the music business. And as you know, it's full of heartbreaks, that music
full
business.
of heartbreak.
So yeah, he keeps busy. He's John Becker. And he's
what kind of irony, though, Rob, is it that, like, you as a musician, right, and Rob's a bass player, and as a musician, you move in somewhere, and this guy is from basically the movies in the past. What's it like?
He was in a horror movie and in a band, so it's just like we were made to be friends in some way. Yeah. And that's strange how life puts those things in your way. When was the last time I was friends with my neighbor? Probably not since I was a little kid, and we used to all kind of play together on the block.
Are you not neighborly, Rob?
I would say I'm more neighborly since John Becker. John Becker taught me a lesson in how to be a good neighbor and how to be a better person. The subtitle of this book is Music and Monsters and Madness. The monster isn't just the creepy thing from The Horror of Party Beach. The monster in Becker Comes Alive is loneliness. And loneliness is really one of the more devastating, I think it's an epidemic in this country. So it's something we need to think more about.
Loneliness is definitely one of those things, and even though you could have been in a very popular band and you were famous and all this stuff, you can be lonely, like a Richard Simmons, right, or like an artist like your guy here. But it's definitely one of those things where we need to pay more attention, obviously.
Yeah.
So.
Just I guess it's everybody maybe should know this, but every elderly person has a story to tell. So it might be worth asking him.
Awesome. So listen, we're going to, you could stay, right? A few more minutes. We're halfway through the show.
I hope so.
When we get back, halfway already, Rob. When we get back, we'll have a visit from Shelley Williams. She's going to give us the reality wrap-up for this week. You don't want to miss this either, which is that we will dispel a myth and answer a question that has been plaguing mankind forever. It has to do with gentlemen's magazines.
Oh, good.
You'll give us that when we get back. Don't go anywhere.
All right.
As a #1 public speaker, Paul Bastante combines entertainment and information in his presentations for all his speaking engagements. Topics may range from quirky Americans to the history of the Oreo cookie, as well as business topics such as Marketing 101 and artificial intelligence. Paul's upbeat personality plus motivational and inspirational speaking engagements are customized. Whether for a business conference or a senior living facility, you can book Paul by visiting paulbastante.com.
This is attorney Bob Gruhulik of the law firm Beatty & Gruhulik, the lawyer guy. Tune in every Tuesday at 12 noon for the latest legal advice and tips. We're taking calls and giving answers to all your legal questions. That's every Tuesday at 12 noon on radio worth listening to.
WTBQ GHT weather.
Well, this morning, a can't rule out a snow shower. Otherwise, mostly cloudy today. Temperatures will be in the lower 30s. Sky is clear tonight. We'll see lows in the lower 20s. A bright sunny day with a comfortable afternoon on Sunday. Highs in the upper 30s. Partly cloudy, a little chilly for Sunday night. Lows in the upper teens to near 20. Monday, we'll see mostly sunny skies with highs in the upper 30s. Partly sunny Tuesday. I'm meteorologist Jim Rinaldi.
WTBQ.
Hey, welcome back to FlixPop Radio. We're still here with author Rob Errera here on GHT and TBQ in beautiful Warwick, New York. And let's face it, Rob, I've been holding you hostage now for quite some time, and I couldn't appreciate you more.
Well, you gotta unleash these chains in the back of the chair. I'm losing circulation.
Yes, and your color. Hopefully it returns soon. Listen, yes. How do you achieve the best return on your social media investment for your business? Well, that's easy. You call Officially Social. I'd recommend them to help your small and medium-sized business reach the masses. They'll take great care of you, and they move the needle. Learn more about Officially Social today. Visit them on the web at officiallysocial.com. The reality wrap-up is delivered every week at the bottom of the hour by Shelley Williams, resident reality TV junkie and my friend and actress, the lovely, smart, and kind Shelley Williams. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Paul. How are you? Congratulations. What a great show so far.
Thank you so much, my friend. What you got for us?
Well, here we go with Reality TV Palooza. It's our time of year for the week of January 4th, 2025. Although some of the big mainstays don't premiere for a few weeks, there's definitely plenty of table flipping and backstabbing going on in the meantime. This week brought us two really fun finales, starting with MTV's finale of the challenge, Eras. This season's cast was whittled down to 8 members competing in a 2-day finale. In a final twist for this year's matchups, each eliminated player, before exiting the battle arena, were allowed to submit a karma vote. Ooh, we know about karma, don't we? Which changed the outcome of the game. The eventual winners, even though they may have competed better, either got bumped down or raised up based on how they treated their fellow castmates during the season. This is one of my all-time favorite reality seasons. You can check it out along with 39 previous seasons on Paramount+. Also wrapping up this week was a crazy, unpredictable house of villains. An all-star cast had been living in a mansion forced to tolerate each other's giant egos for 3 months, vying to be the last one standing in a series of challenge eliminations. And one thing I love about this show is, as the title suggests, everyone shows their true colors and only the true villains survive. Yes, there are tears and a bit of strategy needed to get to the end and win the $200,000 purse, but there's actually no backstabbing. Everything is done in true villainous fashion, right in front of your face. Without spoiling the fun for those who haven't caught up yet, someone at the very end actually gets down on his knees and begs. This made for an outstanding reality moment. Premiering this week was the return of Deal or No Deal Island, the sophomore season of the mashup between beloved Deal or No Deal and Survivor. Contestants first build their bank, and at the end of each episode, one contestant is voted by the others to go against the banker in an abridged version of the game. Beat the banker and you get to stay and choose another cast member to leave. Lose to the banker and you're out. People didn't think it would work, but my reality TV addiction gets sated with this fun, lighthearted game of strategy with cast members from the other reality series. Now on to my favorite, Paul. My favorite is The Traitors. Oh my goodness, The Traitors USA has returned for its third installment of Peacock's original series. This year's cast is chock full of reality royalty, and I am here for it all. Alan Cummings returned as the perfect host for this game of deceit and murder. Peacock releases 3 episodes at a time, which I appreciate as I prefer to binge my shows. Check out this instant hit as soon as you can. Seasons 1 and 2 are available to binge. Back also is Extreme Makeover Home Edition, Move That Bus, Hell's Kitchen, and RuPaul's Drag Race. But there are only so many hours in a day. Is there a reality show that you love? Paul, do you love a reality show?
You know what? I like The Big Brother. I like Survivor, obviously, was the first one ever. Rob, what's your favorite reality show?
I would say we watch The Amazing Race.
Oh, yeah. The Amazing Race is great, obviously.
Right.
What is your favorite, Shelley, like outside of like the research you've done? What do you just tune in every day for? Every week for?
I never miss Survivor. I have not missed it since the very first season.
Yeah. Well, listen, Shelley, I love you. Thank you so much for your report today. The Reality Wrap has been brought to you by Shelley Williams. Thanks a lot. We'll see you next week, okay?
Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great week.
See you, Shelley.
You got it. All right, Rob, let's get back to it because I told the listeners that we were going to dispel a rumor, a myth.
All right, sure.
A thing that's been bantied about forever in the history of humankind.
Okay.
Now, listen, there are I'll call them gentlemen's magazines out there. I talked to Taylor. She's the station manager here. Obviously, this is my first radio show ever, so I don't want to end up being, banished to Radio Siberia for saying like the wrong thing or anything. Sure. So I didn't want to say what it really was. So I kind of settled on Gentleman's Magazine.
Sure. We used to call them men's sophisticates.
Okay. Now listen, in the back of those, there are letters.
Yes.
Supposedly that are written to people, not to people, but written and sent in to the magazine.
Yes.
Right? Now, the question has always been, what is the truth in these? Are these actual real people, or is there some other person behind the scenes who is coming out of their head? And if so, who is it? And how twisted are they?
Well, these are excellent questions. Paul's asking because I was the editor of Cherie magazine for many years. And it was a men's sophisticate magazine. And it was not a boring job. I really enjoyed it. But yes, we would get mail all the time. Often our main subscriber base was incarcerated, and they would send letters from prison, often to the girls in the magazine.
Wow.
Yeah. And, God bless them. But yeah, we would get letters of encounters, say like a Penthouse Forum type letter. And yeah, a lot of times, sometimes we would use them. Honestly, sometimes we would. Maybe 1 out of 10. Oh, okay. But the other 9 letters that you would read were written by...
by you?
By some of them.
Oh, wow.
Some of them were.
Wow. Oh, that's unbelievable.
I would say the most fun of that job wasn't the longer letters, but it was writing what we would call girl copy, which was like a little 1 paragraph that would go with the photo layout. So, and I would pretty much use that 1 paragraph because I figured probably people aren't reading that 1 paragraph. So I would often use it to make some kind of bad joke, like a Catskill comic. Let's say I had a Jenna Jameson layout. Jenna Jameson just got back from the mall. She's exhausted. Luckily, her valet...
Careful now.
Her valet, Paul Bastante, is there to help her undress and put away her new wardrobe.
So that's funny. Stop right there.
Okay.
Stop right there because just a little background for the listeners. Rob and I, we used to live together.
We did.
Like this is like 40 years ago.
It was semi-platonic.
It was. Listen, this is live radio. It's a family show. But like I would like read his magazine. Like I borrowed it from a friend. I never bought those.
Paul liked the articles.
I like the articles, right? But I would read in the letters, and sometimes I'll like this if my name would be used in there.
It would.
And I'd be like, Rob, what are you doing, including me in your stories?
I think I've made you both a pool boy and a pizza delivery guy.
Pizza delivery guy, yes. I think I remember that as well.
Those are always popular in those those scenarios.
Always glad to live vicariously for my friend Rob Errera.
Indeed, and glad to include you in the fun.
All right, on to the next thing. I have Rob Errera here, author of Autism Dad, Becker Comes Alive, also his new book. If you go to FlixPopRadio.com, you can look at all those links. You can click on them. You can buy them. Please do that. This is my guy right here. We need to prop him up and
Thanks.
appreciate his work. So listen, this is a horror genre today.
Wait,
okay?
before we hop into the horror, let's hop back to Autism Dad for 1 second.
Yes, let's do it.
Because you asked me about my life docs before with Rebecca Eckert. Is that her name? Rebecca Eckert would be a good person to contact if you have a special needs child, because she could probably hook you up with a family trust.
Yes.
All that stuff's really important when you have a special needs kid. So get your life docs in order with Rebecca Eckert.
Yes, an extra spot for Rebecca Eckert.
Well, she deserves it.
The bill's in the mail, Rebecca. Okay,
so horror.
Back to horror. Okay, Rob, so I want to know, and our listeners want to know, what is your favorite horror movie? By the way, if you have a favorite horror movie, just text it to 845-328-0886 or call the station here at 845-651-1110. What's your favorite movie?
How can you ask me a question like that?
I know.
A favorite horror movie is like asking a favorite day of the week or favorite color. To me, they're all
Favorite child.
different. But a favorite child, absolutely. Oh, I know which one I like. Anyway, but I would say favorite movie, I'm going to have to go, and this is an answer that people do not usually give for horror movies, but I'm going to go with Jaws.
Jaws.
1975.
Get out.
I think, again, I believe my parents may have taken me to go see this movie when I was 7 or 8, which was probably too young. I don't have a lot of memories of the movie itself. I remember the end of the movie where everybody in the theater cheered when the shark blew up. But I would say Jaws inspired a passion in me for sharks and aquatic things. I actually wanted to be a marine biologist after that movie.
Wow.
I carried that dream with me, Paul, all the way into college. And then I realized that I had a hard time passing biology and chemistry.
You bailed.
So I decided to do a little course correct. And I figured if I was a writer, I wouldn't have to I could write about everything and not actually have to learn to be a biologist.
Who's your favorite writer? Who's your favorite director? Give us something like that.
All right. Well, I'd say everybody loves Stephen King because he's Uncle Steve as we call him.
The number one grossing movie of all time is based on a Stephen King book. You know what that is?
Is that Stand By Me, maybe?
No, it's It.
It? Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Highest grossing, over $702 million.
It's a strange one. I'm not sure if I really like the remakes all that much.
We all float down here.
Which didn't have to be literal, like they were literally floating. I think it was more like they were floating in a ether space or something. But yeah, I love Stephen King. I'm reading a book right now by this guy, Paul Tremblay, who wrote Head Full of Ghosts. And I'm reading the book I'm reading now. It's called Horror Movie. He's a really good writer, excellent writer. I love Joe Lansdale. He has a real distinct voice in the genre.
What? Now you mentioned John Carpenter.
Yes.
And one of John Carpenter's favorite type of movies that he likes to write is like what he calls like the escape movie, where it's like you're in a space with 4 other people and the walls are closing in and how do we escape, right? Like that kind of thing. Like, what's your favorite sub genre of the horror genre? What type of movie is that?
Well, one of my other, I would say, favorite movies would be The Thing from '82, which is John Carpenter.
Great one.
And that exactly fills out that sense of paranoia of being in an enclosed space, of having a hard time trusting the people around you. And you see that a lot. You see that in his other films too, a little bit. Escape from New York. But yeah, The Thing. So I would say that genre of having a sense of paranoia, and it works better even if they're like family members, like a Hereditary. That had a great sense to it.
Oh, yeah. All right, people. So, first of all, somebody on the text line, go Chucky, go. That's a great one.
That's, the Child's Play.
Yeah, Child's Play. Great. That's a great one.
That's a fun one.
So, all right, here we go. Every single week on Saturday morning on FlixPop Radio will be your chance, to play Dinner in a Movie. All right. And all you have to do is identify the horror movie of the line that we give you is from. We'll give you a line from a horror movie. If you call us with the correct answer first, you got to call us. You will win dinner for two at Spaziani's Restaurant, 1572 Butler, New Jersey. And I have to tell you, Rob, before we even go any further, I was just at this place last night.
Yeah.
It's interesting. You go there, you sit down. It's like not like a restaurant. The food is unbelievable. It's like $30 for you to go there and eat all you can eat. But we're going to give you the line after this, and if you call in and win, you'll win two ducats and tickets for a movie date night.
Sweet.
There you go, date night right here on FlixPop Radio. So
Nice.
here's the line before we go to break. It is, what film produced the quote, "No tears, please. It's a waste of good suffering." End quote. No tears, please. It's a waste of good suffering. Obviously, it's a horror movie. Call up 845-651-1110. We'll be back after this.
As a #1 public speaker, Paul Bastante combines entertainment and information in his presentations for all his speaking engagements. Topics may range from quirky Americans to the history of the Oreo cookie, as well as business topics such as Marketing 101 and artificial intelligence. Paul's upbeat personality plus motivational and inspirational speaking engagements are customized. Whether for a business conference or a senior living facility, you can book Paul by visiting paulbastante.com.
St. Anthony Hospital hosts Health Matters every Thursday at 10 a.m., where physicians, specialists, and heads of departments share their expertise with you. Call in or text in because your health does matter, right here on radio worth listening to.
WTBQ.
Hey, everybody, we're back on FlixPop Radio. The quote from the film is, "No tears, please. It's a waste of good suffering." At
No
the very
tears,
least,
please.
yeah. Like, don't look it up. Like, you got to know this. You could Google it, I guess, if you want. And I don't think we have any callers yet. But if you know it, call 845-651-1110.
No tears, please. It's a waste of good suffering.
And there's your second clue on the movie line contest, given beautifully by Rob Errera. You should do some acting, Rob. By the way,
Thanks. I'm working on my British accent.
Rob, what's your favorite vacation?
My vacation?
European or cruise vacation?
I'd probably go to Europe.
Okay, listen, hands down for me, the best vacation is like a cruise vacation. But secondly, really, it's kind of niche-y, but it's European river tours.
Ah, okay.
Because European river tours are something that one of our sponsors, Cardinal Tours, does for their customers. And what do? They hook the whole entire thing up.
Nice.
Like go on a European tour, maybe a European destination kind of thing, or even like say you have a group of people, your whole family wants to go on vacation, you call up Cardinal Tours. Call them at 973-835-0177. Ask for Betty. She is my friend, an ultimately kind human being, and I love her very much. Call her today at 973-835-0177. Okay. If we have anybody who knows the answer to the trivia question, please call in at 845-328. Sorry, that's the text number, 0886. Call in at 845-651-1110. Okay, Rob, while we're waiting for that.
No tears, please.
No tears, please.
It's a waste of good suffering.
So tell us tell us the beginning.
Okay.
You didn't know you were going to be a writer, but I knew you in high school. You always had this great mind. It's it's dark in there. I'll tell people at home it's a little dark in there.
It is.
But tell us how you kind of landed on this medium of writing books.
Well, again, I went to college, Rutgers, graduated with a journalism degree. When you go to school to be a writer, you have a choice. You could be either an English teacher or you could be a journalist. I was like, no, I'm going to make my bones with words. I'm going to write and make a living. And you know what? For the last 30-some years, I've done that. But it's been a tight living. but I've managed to live the dream and make it happen. So, yeah, going from newspapers to magazines to now I write a lot for internet, web, blogs. So, yeah, done a little bit of all of it, I think.
Yeah, and also, like, you're a musician, too. I mentioned before that you play the bass.
I do.
And, you know, you've been bopping around in bands for, like, really all your life. But really, it's with the Cruel Earth that you've really, you know, been able to achieve your creative successes. This is an act and a recording group that has made, I mean, I don't know, like I was looking before the show doing my research. And folks, by the way, we don't just like show up at the radio station at like, you know, 9 a.m. and just like plan our interview. No, like I actually did a deep dive on you, Rob, even though I know you. Okay. And I know what you're about. You actually wrote the song Pompton Lakes, that is on the soundtrack for Friendly Tolerable Characters. Tell us how you wrote that and tell us what the process is for writing a song for like a movie.
Well, for writing for a movie, there you have, like, for instance, your movies are very historically based. So you can actually go to history, find a story, find a person, Aaron Schuyler, Albert Payson Terhune. So you have the events, you have the places, and then it's kind of a word game as far as making things rhyme, making things fit to a melody. For me, it's fairly easy to come up with a basic song structure. There's only a handful of them. You have verse, chorus, sub-chorus. So you kind of have the structure of it. And then it's, to me, I call it a word game. If I was British, I would say clever wordplay. But it really is just a word game to me, getting things that rhyme and are fun.
Excellent. Now, what about, though, like, so what was it about Pompton Lakes? Like, tell us a little bit about what you learned about Pompton Lakes.
Well, Pompton Lakes is full of history. So you had George Washington, slept there twice.
With his wife once.
With his wife. He brought Martha, too.
He did.
Nice. So, yeah, you had George Washington, you have Joe Louis, famous prize fighter. And all that kind of was able to work in lyrically. Then when I say like a word game, for instance, the chorus of Pompton Lakes is George Washington slept here twice in Pompton Lakes. Joe Louis trained for prize fights. Ben Franklin burnt down. Now, people would think, well, does that mean Ben Franklin actually was it a problem with the lightning and the kite and the key or something?
Did he burn down a supermarket or something?
Ben Franklin was a department store in Pompton Lakes that burnt down in the 80s and it was a big fire in Pompton Lakes. And there's a Lidl market there now. So Ben Franklin burnt down, but we have Lidl now.
Fascinating. I love it.
If you were not in Pompton Lakes, you might not know what that means. But if you're a Pompton Lakes resident, you're like, oh, yes.
Absolutely.
Ben Franklin did burn down, and we have Lidl now.
And he wasn't an arsonist.
He was not an arsonist. So, yeah.
We learn right away.
That's the wordplay, going from real people to maybe a symbol of a person.
Yeah. Okay, so, all right, let's take a little break from the interview. I have somebody on the line, Andrew Santiago. Santiago is our podcast, People's Podcast Review. Andrew, how are you today, my friend?
Hey, Paul. How are you guys holding up this morning?
We're holding up good, man. I can't wait to hear what podcast I should be listening to and what our listeners should be listening to.
Well, all right. Let's open up the People's Podcast. It's brought to you by Cardinal Tours, located in Pompton Lakes, New Jersey. And this week is dedicated to fans of the true crime and horror genre.
Yes.
True crime. We're right on point after hearing that horrible beach movie. So we're right on point with that. So we open up with True Crime Horror Story. It's a podcast that presents itself like an anthology horror movie, narrated by J.D. Horror. Each episode explores some of the most disturbing true crime cases, both well-known and obscure, from real-life cannibals like Jeffrey Dahmer to the horrors of John Wayne Gacy. The tone is set the moment you press play with an ease-in of eerie music and is complemented by a storytelling style that emphasizes the horrific elements of these real-life events. So if you have the courage, True Crime Horror Story is available to listen on all major streaming platforms, or you can visit truecrimehorrorstory.com. Please note the podcast does contain graphic language and viewer discretion is advised. So that's really what should be listening to on the People's Podcast this week.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Andrew. Andrew is the podcast. He's the Uber podcast guy.
Yeah.
He's a studio in Pompton Plains called ANJ Studio, and they host and produce a whole large number of podcasts. Santiago, thank you so much. We'll see you next week. Okay.
Thank you, Paul.
You
guys
got it, buddy.
have a great show, and it's been an amazing first show.
Oh,
you guys
thank
are doing
you.
Great.
Thank you. We're doing great. Oh, good to hear, man.
Thanks.
Instant feedback.
By the way, can I answer the question? I know the horror answer.
Actually,
it might be cheating.
No,
well,
you don't really physically work for the show, and I don't have a caller for that. Am I allowed to? Can he give the answer? Go ahead, man. So listen, before you do it, all right, I'm going to give you. You're actually bailing me out here because the first show I don't have a caller to answer who doesn't want tickets to this place, Spaziani's Catering and Food Design? Come on.
Food is so good.
All right, Rob, give us the quote again. Give us the quote again. Oh, hold on one second. Hold on one second, Andrew. Give us the quote again.
Save your tears.
Okay.
It's a waste of suffering.
What is that from, Andrew?
So it goes back, I believe it was released in 1987. Hellraiser?
Hellraiser is it. We have a winner. Fantastic.
Goes wild.
And what has he won? He's won 2 tickets and 2 tickets to go see the movie that night after you get done with Spaziani's. And people go to Spaziani's and see Andrew when he's there. The place is great. It's a buffet style. It's not a restaurant. It's like a family style place. The food is unbelievable. Tony Spaziani there has been doing this for forever. You got to go there. Rob is going to be there. I'm going to be there.
I'll be there.
Santiago's going to be there. Santiago, thank you for your time and congratulations on winning the first dinner and a movie.
Woo!
Thank you, Paul. You guys have a great, great morning.
You too, buddy.
Thanks.
See you. Okay, Rob, we have a couple minutes left here. Okay. I need to know what it is that you want to talk about because, listen, you come all the way here from Pompton Lakes, New Jersey, Riverdale, New Jersey. That's where you live. One of the things about, if you guys know, there's like a house on Hanford Turnpike there. Uh-huh. And if you look to your left while you're driving, there's all guitars and everything hanging out in the window there. Mm-hmm. Tell us about that. Tell us why there are guitars hanging in the window.
Well, this kind of brings us full circle back to the Autism Dad thing. Autism Dad 3 is pretty much about, Autism Dad 3 is more about finding a place for my son in the world, trying to give him some skills that could be usable. So I've been tinkering with guitars since I was a teenager. So I figured, I live on a main road. Hey, let's open this little guitar shop. So I threw some guitars in the window just to kind of let people know what we were doing. We've gotten some decent walk-in business. We've gotten a lot of setups, a lot of string changes. I can't say my son is great at it, but he has an interest in it, and you know what? It's something we could do together, and I enjoy it. I don't know if he enjoys it, but I do.
Sounds like he's a chip off the old block.
Yeah,
I've seen him. So. He looks like you.
He does.
He probably likes music like you.
He does like music quite a bit.
So listen, there's people out there. You mentioned before, we talked about it before, like the dads are kind of like almost always like overlooked. And I don't know if when we were young, we were exactly thinking about being parents or being a dad.
I was not.
But give us that, boil it down to 10 seconds. What is it like to be a dad?
Well, as you know, it's a 24-hour job, and it never seems to end. And they would say, your kids, you just got to watch them till they're 18. No, they're both of my kids are young adults now, and I still keep an eye on them as much as I think I ever did. A daughter in college, you don't know where she's at. You got to, kind of keep tracks on her. And my son, again, it's a pleasure to spend every day with him. And I really enjoy his company. I think he's probably getting sick of me, but he's probably like, oh, Dad, I've seen you every day. But
he's getting sick of your material.
Yeah, probably. He's probably
yeah.
But yeah, it's what would they call it? Like the toughest job you'll ever love? Like one of those things?
Jesus, yes. Okay, so we got about a minute to go. I want to just, first of all, thank you for being on the show.
Well, thank you.
It's been great. Rob and I, we did yoga this week. We had a meeting. We did a mock show and everything. Yeah. This is fantastic.
Yes.
I want to thank Allison Luke and Shelley Williams, Santiago, Goose Behind the Glass, and of course, all of you out there, listeners, could not do it without you. Next week on FlixPop Radio, Italian singing sensation Biagio, Italian singing sensation.
That's awesome.
All right, see you next time. Thanks for being here, Rob.
Thank you, Paul.